Shalom, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi, and in this video we'll talk about Genesis chapter 4 verse 26, where people began to call upon the name of the Lord. That's what at least we read in most of the translations. So the question though is that some people have raised a doubt as to whether they were calling upon God's name or they profaning, etc. So that's the question we're going to look at. Let's see the context in Genesis chapter 4 verse 25. I'll read it in Hebrew. Vayeda Adam od et ishto vateled ben vatikra et shemo Shet. And Adam knew his wife, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. It was Seth, it says in English. King James Bible is Shet. Shet. For God said, for God, she said, has appointed another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. Okay. In the next verse, which is the topic of our discussion here today, is that this verse. Let's read it. Ulshet gam hu yulad ben vaikra et shemo Enosh. Also, to Shet, a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. Enosh means man. It actually simply means man. The plural of which is Anashim, means men. Ish also is Anashim. Ish and Anashim. Maybe I should do another video on which different words are used for men. Adam, Ish, etc. Gever, all these things. Now the key point here is, of course, on the second line. Az huchal likro beshem Adonai. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. This is the translation from the King James Version. Az means then, no problem. Huchal, it says began men. So the began men is an interpretation. There is no word for men there. Began, neither does it mean directly began. We'll see whether it means began or not. But the next phrase, Likro Beshem Adonai, means to call upon the name of the Lord. There is no problem with that. And so really the problem that we have is this with word Huchal. Huchal means what? Well, I'm going to show another meaning of this word Huchal, which means he was caused to hope. We'll come to that a bit later on. But how do we get this word Huchal? So every verb, this is a verb, obviously every verb has a root. From a single root you can derive multiple verbal forms, as I have said many times in my many videos. And the root that is supposed to be underlying this word Huchal is Halal. Chet lamed lamed. Chet lamed lamed. Halal is the root, which means pollute or defile or profane. So if that's the case, then why have they translated like that, and what does it really mean is the question. And why am I suggesting he was caused to hope? I mean, it's a totally different meaning, is it not, when compared to pollute, defile or profane. Right, so how do we derive Hebrew words, Hebrew verbs? From the root, we can, if Shamar is the root, from Shamar we get Shimer, Hishmir, Tisha, Hit, Shammer, Hushmar, Shumar, Nishmar. All these differences come because of the stem, the verbal stem, Kal, Piel, Hifil, Hitpael, Hofal, Fual, Nifal. Also, what is the conjugation? Katal, yiktol, vaiktol, vekatal, etc. Okay, and the second person, third person, masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural. All these variations cause variations in the verbs. So, how did we get that word huchal from halal? So, if you take the katal conjugation, that's the katal conjugation, and the hofal stem, using katal conjugation, hofal stem in the third person masculine, halal becomes huchal. So this one here, this is called this is a verbal conjugation table, a paradigm chart for geminate roots. What does geminate root means? It means that when a root has two letters doubled, like, there are other letters as sabab, for example. Sabab is to surround. So that word, again, it's a geminate root, meaning same letter doubles. So this also is the same thing, halal. So here we have savav, husav. So husav, the first letter, hu and first letter and second letter. So halal will be hu hal. That's the pattern for hofal in the third person masculine for cattle. Okay, we can derive that. And that's the reason why many scholars, maybe not many, in fact Rashi also suggested the same meaning that we are saying. It means pollute, defile, or profane. Basically, he suggests that the idol worship started then in Genesis chapter 4 verse 26. There are also one of the Targums also says something similar. They all go by this idea that this word huchal is derived from the root halal, and it is perfectly a valid claim to make, because using the word halal you can derive huchal, no problem whatsoever. Okay, so then if we read the translation in Genesis 4:26, and this huchal, remember, it is in the third person masculine singular hofal. Hofal is a passive verb, and it is in the singular third person masculine. And so you read, then he was caused, that is passive. He is a singular third person masculine. Then he was caused to profane. That's how you would say, to call upon the name of, etc. So, I mean, what is this? What is going on? Were these guys trying to call upon the name of the Lord in an unholy manner, or like what? Exactly what was going? Right, so let's look at other alternatives, right? Now, halal also means to bore through or pierce. To bore through or pierce, which has been in fact used also. This also can be used in a negative way, to bore through or pierce. But it can be used also in a slightly different way, positively, in the sense it's not positive. What it means is that when you begin something, you begin by digging or piercing. So you cut the ribbon, like you just use your instrument to dig it first time, and that, to plow, let's say. So whatever activity you're doing, if for example you're building a house, so you basically take a crowbar and first dig the ground first to put the foundation stone, etc. So that can be interpreted to mean beginning, meaning the literal meaning of halal could also mean bore through or pierce, which can be interpreted negatively, and it has been negatively interpreted in the Bible itself in many places. However, it can mean a neutral word meaning of beginning something. And I think that is what the King James Bible and a lot of other Bibles translate. They say, then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. But literally, if you translate this with that meaning, you can say, then he was caused to begin, or then he began. Okay, so that's a justification you could give to hofal based on the same root halal, from which huchal comes. Now I'm suggesting another root that underlies the word, which is yachal. Yachal is yod het lamed, which means to wait or to hope or to expect. Okay. Why yachal? Oh, because you could derive huchal, the same word, from the same hofal stem and the same katal conjugation in the same third masculine singular from the root yachal. What? How is that possible? It is. I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, in Hebrew, certain words can be derived, word forms can be derived from different roots whether using the same approach or a different approach, but they can be derived from different roots. So that gives us a bit of an ambiguity. Okay, so that is an ambiguity we have to live with. So I'm using now, if you use the root Yachal, Yod Het Lamed, this Yod Het Lamed is a kind of a root what is known as the root with which the first letter of the root begins either with Yod or a Vav. For this, the paradigm is different because these are all called weak verbs or weak roots. Because they begin with Yod or Vav, sometimes they have gutturals and these sort of things. Right, so if you see this example of Yashav is the example here in the paradigm. Hushav is the Hofal in the third person masculine singular of cattle. And so Yachal would be Huchal. Straightforward. Again, I just made it big so you can see. Hushav. Hushav, from Hushav in the same pattern you read Huchal. Therefore, we get Huchal from Yachal. And so that what is the meaning then we can give to that based to Huchal based on the new root Yachal. So we can read, then he was caused to hope to call, you can say calling upon the name of the Lord. So likro can mean to call, or it can be read as a participle. We say calling upon the name of the Lord. So he was caused to hope, calling upon the name of the Lord. It's a fairly positive thing to view in this way, and a perfectly legitimate interpretation based on the root Yachal. So we have this word halal, which if we take the meaning to be piercing, boring and polluting, etc., we can get multiple meanings. Either they were profaning the name or they were beginning to call upon the name, where this pierce or bore is used metaphorically as in starting some work, which is to begin. Either way, we could take a halal and get two different meanings, one positive and one negative. But with an alternative root Yachal, we could just get a purely positive view where they are caused to wait in calling upon the name of the Lord. You get the same Huchal using two different roots. That's the very interesting learning, in fact, that we get actually today. So there's another example of this same phenomena. In Genesis 9:20, for example, we read Vayachel Noach ish ha'adama vayita karem. So what he's saying is that Noah began to be an husbandman or a farmer or a man of the field. Ish ha'adama means man of the field, which means a farmer, a husbandman. Here we read this verb vayachel, means it's a third masculine singular, vayiktol conjugation, he feels stem, from the root halal. Now, I'm not suggesting this is what the scholars have indicated against this word, whether you see Blue Letter Bible or all these morphological tools that you see online, you can find the root to be halal. So, vayachel, but, and then you, if you want to interpret this as profaning, then you say, then Noah began to profane as a man of the ground. No. So he began to pierce, what? The ground. Basically, he started digging the ground, right? So it is a neutral thing. So then he began to be a farmer. That's the way they have taken the meaning, and it is perfectly fine. Now notice the same thing. Vayachel is same root. Same word, W, of course. Sometimes we Indians do have a tendency to confuse between V and W depending on, how much you're used to Indian culture. By the way, Genesis 8 and 10, we read Vayachel. It's the same root. Vayachel od shivat yamim acherim. So, and he stayed and he waited yet another 7 days. Noah. And again, he sent forth a dove out of the ark. So here too we see third masculine singular Vayikthol in the PL stem, Vayachel, but the morphology suggests the root is Yachal. It's not halal as in 920, but Yachal, but the word Vayachel is just exactly the same. So then we see here again another similar phenomenon of Vayachel derived from two different roots to two different mechanisms. This is Hifil and this is Piel. Halal, Yachal, both leading to Vayachel. This is exactly what has happened in our discussion earlier on Genesis chapter 4 verse 26. So what is the conclusion? So the conclusion is that we could translate Huchal as beginning, like, Noah took the plow or the crowbar or whatever, started digging, pierced through, not in the negative sense, but in the sense of beginning to call upon the name of the Lord. That's a positive sense. But if you take halal as a negative, and then it means that they profaned. Okay, but instead of using the root halal, if you use the root yachal, which is legitimately, perfectly, grammatically all right to use, then we can say then he was caused to hope, calling upon the name of the Lord. That would be the conclusion. I would prefer this one, which is that Enosh means frail. A man has discovered his frailty. He learned that he has to depend upon God. He was caused to hope in the calling upon the name of the Lord. Okay, so let us all be caused to hope to call upon the name of the Lord, to receive help from Him in due time. Thank you for watching. Please do like the video, click the bell icon, click subscribe button, click the bell icon, and please do comment below. And I will see you again with another video as soon as I can. Thank you very much.